Alrighty, it's 20 hours and 45 minutes on the day of June 28, 2012. It's Thursday, and I'm just at my desk now. I was doing some other work before, some cleaning up work and some organization around the facility. I'm getting more and more of the facility operational as I fix up and change up the place. That happens every once in a while. You know, you grow out of things and you have to go through everything that you've done before, clean things up, take it down, rearrange it, rebuild it, refurbish it, and get new in order to get new things working. And that's sort of what I've been doing. Is been doing all that. So yeah. Now I'm just going to sort of take care of all the work I've got to do, and this is I'm just sort of doing the work on the video. So I just uploaded a video. The next episode is now up. I've got to set the information for it, and once I've done that, then on to the next round of work. Yesterday I was in a bizarre mood. This happens every once in a while when you're fatigued, and these last few days I've been very heavily fatigued. It particularly hit me on Wednesday. You're not as happy as you should be, even though I mean, up until Wednesday, I basically what was it? It was that, how should I say this? I accomplished as much up to Wednesday as I would have done in an entire week. So, in terms of my efficiency and what I'm able to do, I was able to do that. I was able to do a lot. I'm working on new graphic overlays. I'm now getting into that. I've done a lot with graphic overlays. I've done more with editing. I'm really pushing Kdenlive. I'm getting the electronics desk nicely working. I've spread the email, the post office across the network. So rather than being on one system, the post office is now network-wide, distributed. It's a distributed post office. So you know, I'm happy with what I've been able to get. So, in terms of the actual amount of work that's getting done, it's getting done. It's just that the levels of fatigue, the tiredness, sometimes can be a little daunting. You know, the excitement for which you should have for something sometimes, when you're tired, doesn't always present itself. Although I did do food shopping yesterday, that was sort of on the list there, and you got to see me go food shopping, and that's going to be up in a few seconds here. I'm just filling out the information. Yeah. And, you know, it's the computer is behaving a little bizarre. That happens every once in a while. The computer slows down, behaves a little bizarre. That's kind of happening today. But these things happen, you know. That's sort of standard, par for the course. Oh, let's see what happens here now. Oops. The warning is this: match third-party content. Let's see here. Anyways, I'll see you in a bit. I got something to work on here. They false flagged Alibaba is a very old story, so it's more than a couple thousand years old. So, all right, let's talk DCA. Let's talk copyright flags. A lot of times, if anyone who's on YouTube knows, and you're a YouTuber knows, when you upload something and it's flagged for inappropriate content, let's take this seriously here. So let's do this. Let's take this seriously. YouTube wants us to be serious about flagged and inappropriate material. So let's talk about YouTube profiting from genocide. That's right, profiting from genocide and racism. And this is going to be the title of the video today, that YouTube profits from racism and genocide. I'm from the Middle East. My background is Greek and Syrian. I've talked about this before. I'm not an Arab. Arabs came in centuries ago and wiped out all the Christians. The Middle East was Christian before Europe was. It's the birthplace of Christ in the Middle East. And this is my culture. So I put up a song I'm trying to put up a song for my culture because everything else is copywritten. It's from the Magic Carpet, the Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, Aladdin. That's from my culture. And they flagged it as possible copyright material. You may have copyright material from somebody else. Okay, let's get serious about this then. Are you going to, from my perspective, I consider what happened to the Middle Eastern Christians, to the Copts, who are Egyptian Christians, to the Antiochus, the Syrian Christians, to the Palestinian Christians. I consider what's happened to them, including the Armenians, genocide. And YouTube right now is profiting, same thing with Disney when they copyright this stuff and use these stories from these different places and copyright them. They're profiting from genocide. They're profiting from racism. Because throughout most of the history of Europe, we weren't considered to be human beings. We were always subject to white Europeans. We still are subject to white Europeans right now. We aren't considered to be enough, except for a slight few who are considered more Euro, or kissing up to the white man, and consider themselves to be European. They get a few more perks as permitted by the white European society. But the thing is that we aren't European and we're not Arabs. We are our own culture. Our culture is thousands of years old. We're as old as the Silk Road itself. And then we have people coming in now saying, oh, sorry, that's intellectual property. You can't steal intellectual. Wait a minute. That property was stolen from my culture when people came in and murdered my people. Murdered my culture. That stuff was stolen and then sent out. Who are you to tell me I can't have my own culture, that I can't listen to my own culture? So if we're going to do a copyright flag, let's do the copyright flag properly. You pay me for my stolen culture. You pay all the Armenians for the genocide. You compensate everyone because you're participating in this. It's exactly the same thing as if someone had stolen art from a Jew in Auschwitz. There's no difference. There is no difference between you, whether you're killing a Jew, an Arab, or anyone else. It's still murder, it's still genocide, it's still wrong, and you shouldn't be profiting it. Just the way you shouldn't profit from slavery. If a song comes from the time when the American record industry was still profiting off of slavery, even back as far as 1975, up to 1975, they were still profiting off of segregation. Then if it's about intellectual property and compensating the artists, then all the artists that came before should be compensated. The record companies have enough money. They're making billions of dollars. Anyone who suffered under racism and under genocide, and their music and culture is being used today under intellectual property rights, under copyright, these people should be compensated. If you're going to make profit out of it, and you're going to claim this as your intellectual property, you cannot claim stolen property as yours. If you do, you're going to have to pay for it, just like everybody else, and just the way you expect people to pay for stuff that you view as being stolen. So if copyright is going to be applied evenly and fairly, across the board, evenly and fairly, then YouTube, you need to pay anyone who has suffered from the Armenian genocide, anyone who has suffered from genocide in the Middle East at the hands of the Muslims, anyone whose music has been stolen from the Jews, from Auschwitz, all the culture there. If you've copywritten that has to be compensated. All these people, anyone in history who has been put down and repressed and taken advantage of by the European whites, and now the Muslims who are raging across the world and killing people for not being Muslims, then these people, all these invisible minorities, the visible minorities and the invisible minorities, we all need to be compensated. And let's start being equal and equal. And here's a call out to what's his name? Reverend Roland Martin, and all those civil rights people in the States who claim to be civil rights people. Why haven't you gone after the intellectual property rights and received any compensation from the music companies for all of the artists, the African American artists, who were up until 1975 segregated and used by the record industry? The record industry, if they're going to claim intellectual property and profit off of this, need to compensate back all the artists that profited from and haven't properly compensated. And they need to pay a penalty, and they need to pay interest on this penalty, and the amount that's accrued. In other words, they need to pay full dues. And if I don't see this coming up from Reverend Roland Martin, if I don't see Reverend Al Sharpton coming up and saying it, or Reverend Jesse Dye, if I don't see this coming up at any point in time soon, if this isn't being made, I know that you don't care, and that your whole point for civil rights has nothing more to do than politics. I'm calling you out right now. What's his name? Reverend Sharpton, Reverend Jackson, and Roland Martin. I'm calling you out. This is a civil rights thing. Get the compensation due from the recording industry, from the movie industry, for African Americans, for any minority who has been taken advantage of and said their culture is now restricted, even though it was stolen from them, and they have to pay for it. I hope this is a lesson here to YouTube. YouTube, you're being racist and you're profiting from genocide. Well, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, and I've been mulling this over for a bit. Just shortly after I posted my video on YouTube, it was flagged for a copyright issue, and I went through the standard process, and maybe a half hour, 45 minutes later, I got an email from them stating that one or more publishing rights collecting societies has reviewed your dispute and released its copyright claim on your video. In other words, someone has claimed rights to my video, that this wasn't authentic, and so on and so forth, and that they had issues with my video in terms of the copyright stuff. But the thing is that the music I have in the background, you know, is from my own culture. Greek Syrian. I've mentioned this before. And at this point in time, we say, oh, well, everything's okay, and well, we'll just let this go, and, oh, well, what can you do? But if you think of it for a minute, and I was born in Boston, and my family is from overseas, but I have a very American attitude towards things where I really believe in the ideals of the ideals of the American flag. And it appeared that YouTube and a whole bunch of other groups, particularly these media groups, these societies, have taken a particular issue with free speech and decided that they want to limit what can and can't be said, what can and can't be thought, how you can and can't express yourself. In other words, they've taken it upon themselves to say that the ideals that were fought for and died for in World War I and World War II, and even up until as late as 1980, supposedly in Vietnam, and all this, every time a soldier put on a uniform, they had an American flag. They were fighting for the ideals of the flag. Well, as of 1990, this is no longer true. The United States no longer stands for its flag anymore. No more does it stand for its own constitution. They've functionally and effectively nullified the U.S. Constitution. This is why you're being molested at the airport and at the border. The U.S. freedom, American freedom, is now a thing of the past. And what a lot of people don't understand is that there is a principle to be stood on. And while the easy thing to do is just simply, water on the bridge, it didn't happen to me, I escaped this time, thank you very much, and go on with it. That's not how you stand up and fight for freedom. Standing up and fighting for freedom, particularly the freedom of speech and the freedom of the individual, the American ideals of freedom, not the socialist ideals of freedom, where it's the so-called society at large who has the benefits, and these individual and invisible minorities are more than fair game to be sacrificed, for the common good, as they say. But it's really at the sort of beck and call of an elite few who consider themselves to be the intellectuals of society, and then they determine who lives and who dies. Like this, you know, well, they killed God and they became God. This is what's happened in the past when we had the Cold War. This is what we were fighting the Cold War. We were fighting communism. We were fighting that totalitarian socialism. And you have a number of soldiers, you know, I said, and people being told that when they go into the army, they're fighting for the ideals of freedom. And the police, they have the same thing. They have the flag on. Everyone's proud of the flag. And July 4th is coming up, and of course, Canada is doing its best to look independent, even though Canada sold out its freedoms a long time ago. I mean, Canada sold its freedoms in less than 10 years. Canada got its freedom in 1985 when the Charter came to Canada, and Trudeau pretended that he was going to be a nice Canadian and give everyone their rights. He didn't. He kept the rights for himself because he's a socialist. He kept the rights for the government. So the government, the rights of Canada transferred from the Queen, and he turned the government into the Queen, into the monarchy, and gave all the rights to this new socialist monarchy. And as he went on, as Chavez did in Venezuela, to go on and nationalize a large chunk of all the various different private corporations that were operating in Canada. He did the same thing to the TV, and he created monopolies, you know, so that government was omnipresent and controlled everything. This mark on Canada is still here today, as known as the CRTC. I call it the Canadian Restricted Thought Control Council. That's exactly what it does. It restricts the type of content that you can and can't see on TV, and radio and television. So, in other words, it controls all media and media outlets within Canada, so that it presents a proper, what they call a proper Canadian identity. Now, this identity, this Canadian identity, is arbitrary and very loosely defined. It's up to a board of bureaucrats who decide what Canadians can and can't see. And they've been at this now many years, blocking channels, blocking media companies from coming in. If you want to set up anything in Canada, be any type of movie star in Canada, you can't. Just like Mike Myers. Mike Myers is Canadian. Everyone's proud of Mike Myers, but what people don't understand is that Mike Myers, yeah, he's Canadian, but in order for him to become a star, he had to leave Canada. In other words, in a social system where the government controls everything, you cannot be a make yourself person in there. The government has to do it. If you want to be a make yourself person and make yourself the way any movie star or any business person has, you have to leave Canada and go to the United States. The United States is one of the few places, or was one of the few places in the world, where you could set up on your own and not have to worry about government interference. But of late, as of 1990, the United States stopped wanting to be its individual own country and wanted to be more like Europe, more like a socialist country, and became embarrassed about its own successes. And this began the slide away from democracy, beginning with the DCA, the Digital Copyright Act, which started in 1990 and became the Millennium Digital Right Copyright in 2000. This was basically the beginning, the vanguard, the move away from the ideal American society, the ideal American flag, the ideals of American freedom, towards a Europeanized socialist system where an elite few governed everybody, and that they were omnipresent in life. And this is what they have. They tell you what type of toilet paper you can have. They tell you how many lights you can have in your house. They tell you how you can flush your toilet. They tell you everything you can do. There isn't one area that government hasn't become intrusive on. And this is a trend that's global now. And the United States sees no problem jumping on the bandwagon and saying, oh, everyone else is doing it. But what happened to what happened standing up to all the rights and freedoms in World War II? That all these people in the graves, all these soldiers who fought and died. What happened to that? Is that all a lie now? And this is what, you know, people who are YouTube say, oh, it's not my fault. They were flagged. We were told by these companies to do that. Really? Here's the thing. In Hitler's Germany, in Stalin's communist Russia, if no one paid attention to what their orders were and carried out their orders, the bureaucracies said no, you wouldn't have the gulags and you wouldn't have places like Auschwitz. In order for Auschwitz and the horrors that we see in the Soviet gulags in history, people had to act on the orders of the government and not question what the government was telling them to do. And this is exactly what's happening at YouTube. Anyone who is flagging this stuff, who stands up against something that is said, even though they don't like it, because free speech, here's the thing, free speech is designed to protect language that many people find offensive, and language that can be viewed as illegal or be illegal. In the free society, it's the action that counts, not what's said. So if I want to say I'm going to murder somebody, until I actually murder somebody, under free speech, I'm protected. And this is the way it should be. And yet, YouTube and being pushed by the media companies, who ironically are on the social left with Obama and support all this leftist crap about tolerance and everything like that, they're the ones coming up with the very restrictive, the very Nazi-like behavior. Basically, every kid on YouTube has to go through a security check in order to post their stuff online. They have, the little kids, including myself, we like Selena Gomez. And you want to put up a video doing a thing with Selena Gomez and with Selena Gomez's song. Because you're a fan, you like it. Can't do it. YouTube flags it and takes it off. It deletes the video. It deletes entire accounts on this page. And you've got kids crying on the internet because YouTube, because of this copyright violation, and Selena Gomez deleted their YouTube account. And the thing is, they don't understand, they don't see themselves, the people who are doing this don't see themselves as Nazis. They don't see themselves as the communist authorities sitting down and being the police state and policing what everyone does online. But this is exactly what's happening. This is, by YouTube, by the standards of geopolitics, YouTube has become a fascist online state. And here's the irony here. When it goes into other territories and wonders why it can't have a free and fair move into Canada or into Mexico or into any other state, it's because these same laws that were set up by the media companies, now they set up monopolies, and because they're not part of the monopoly, YouTube cannot get into Canada. Because of the monopoly, Netflix cannot get into Canada without having the service really stripped to its core, because they don't want these services to compete against the local and what they call the local or the state media monopolies. That's what they are. These are state media monopolies. When you talk about Rogers, we talk about Shaw, we talk about all the Canadian media companies up here. They're basically state-controlled, state-funded institutions. It's state media. And this is a horrible, horrible situation that we've gotten ourselves into. And this is why I say to people like Reverend Al Sharpton, Roland Martin, Jesse Jackson, there are a number of us out here who are, I'm one of the invisible minorities, and we know that the visible minorities, like blacks, have been discriminated against in the movie and music industry for a long time, even up until recent times. If DCA is about proper compensation of the artist and protecting the artist's rights, then there's no reason why you, and I'm calling you people out, shouldn't get up there and start demanding compensation for all the artists that were ripped off. And this includes artists from my culture who experienced genocide. This is to all the Coptic Egyptians who are being wiped out by the Muslims in Egypt. This is all the Christian Syrians in Syria who are being wiped out by the Muslims. This is for the Christian Lebanese who are also being wiped out. This is the same thing for the Greeks in Turkey, either in Ponte or in Cappadocia, who are also being wiped out by the Muslims. There are whole cultures here that this DCA is stealing from, benefiting from genocide, benefiting from racism, benefiting from slavery. And nobody's saying a word about it. If anyone has $5, $10, $1, $5, $10, easy denominations, look for anybody who's doing anything on open source, anything on open hardware, anything on OpenInternet. Send me $5. Because they're doing work you actually should be. They're working on your freedom. I mean, how much is your freedom worth to you? I mean, think about this. I mean, apparently, unless there's a media thing, I don't really think that Roland Martin, what's his name, Reverend Jesse Jackson, and I forgot the other guy's name, Reverend Al Sharpton. I don't think they're going to do anything about this. They never have. I don't think they show up for political rallies that benefit them. If it doesn't have any political bearing to them, they're not going to touch it. And ironically, this could actually have good political bearing, but not in the right direction that they want, because they support censorship. Anyways, this is the rant here. Support free speech. If you know anyone who stood up against PIPA, who stood up against SOPA, pass this on to them and let them know the fight is still going on, and they have to stand up and say no more. And the fight includes the fight against DCA. DCA is at the core of SOPA, PIPA, and all the other bills that are coming down the line that are out there that's going to restrict the internet, that's going to restrict what happens in the United States in terms of rights and freedoms. So, people, please, think about your freedom. Think about how the soldiers are being lied to, that the soldiers are no longer fighting for the rights and freedoms and the ideal embedded in the American flag. They're not fighting for the flag anymore. They're fighting for socialist ideals. It's up to you. You need to decide what you want to do. Anyways, this is it for now. It's 6 o'clock, and I'm going to end it right here.
Welcome to the library, and I am the librarian.
I am the professor. And professor of what? Professor of physics.
Free speech rules here at Democratic Earth.